So to begin, the candidates will introduce themselves and deliver 1-minute opening statements.
Hi, I'm Harry, and I'm running for Student Party Vice President. I'm John Miller. I'm a 15. I'm running for the office of President.
Hi, I'm Yasuto Shaw. I'm also a 15.
Hi guys, I'm Casey Dennis. I'm a 15 from Chester, New Jersey.
Hi everyone, I'm Frank Cunningham. I'm a 16 running as Casey Dennis's running mate. One thing that he and I are both very passionate about, and it's finally uniting this campus once again. Over the past year, Dartmouth has experienced so much, and it's come to a point now that the students have lost their ability to listen to one another and speak to one another with so much respect. And right now, that really has to be fixed. We all have one thing in common through all of our differences, and that's the simple fact that we all bleed green.
And disillusionment on campus about SA. I was talking to some friends, and one of them told me, it's laughable that people still even care about SA, is what she told me. And I felt really bad about that, and I felt, maybe that didn't mirror some of the student body. But if you think about your student activity fee, which is currently, I think, $81 per quarter multiplied by 4,000 undergraduates, it comes to a little over $2 million per quarter that you have essentially for funding. The SA only controls a small part of that, probably around somewhere, it varies, but around $60,000. And so, certainly the SA can do a lot of programming and a lot more than it currently does with a $60,000 budget.
I have been involved with both class council and student assembly over the past 2 terms. And what I see the biggest change Student Assembly did during my time was actually a project I was involved in, I was leading. I'm sure you guys all know that you guys have to fill out the course reviews at the end of each term in order to see your grades. However, those course reviews were never really published. So it will be very difficult for you guys to choose classes just based on median grades. And currently your hackathon pass, the hackathon's course reviews aren't very complete. So what I did during my time in Student Assembly was that I forced the school's administration to publicize the course reviews, and those course reviews will be on this fall. I think that's something that's very concrete that Student Assembly has done.
While a lot of us disagreed with some of the methods of these students, that it was important to note the pain and the hurt that a lot of them were feeling, and to be sensitive to that. And so what I would have done if I had been president during that time would have been to go in and try to meet with one of the leaders of the protesters, as well as to sit down with President Hamlet or Dean Johnson and figure out a way that they could kind of find a compromise the first day, hopefully. And it probably, I think the way it ended was the way that I would have wanted it to end, with Dean Johnson assuring the students that they would be able to talk through the point by point with the relevant administrators. I guess my hope would have been that we would have been able to come to that agreement earlier.
I think students are now saying, hey, we don't really want this here. We must stop doing this. One concept and one part of Casey and I's platform is that we want to work this DBI training within freshman week. That way now every freshman class coming in to Dartmouth will be DBI trained. We also want this training to keep going throughout their 4 years here. Also working with other sexual assault groups on campus.
I think it's important that the initiatives are always kept voluntary though, and so although maybe being a proponent of having it forced upon people freshman year, first week could be effective, I think things are more effective when people are choosing to go of their own volition rather than sort of an administrative policy. And so I'm not sure if I would be in favor of sort of mandating freshmen going to some sort of training like that, just because I've had an experience similar to that with various things, and it doesn't work very well if people are forced to go rather than those who want to go. I think it's important to try to make it so that people do want to go, not force them.
And I think because we're in a rural area, people kind of don't really have a sense of community, and so a lot of people just feel like, well, I'll go to a Greek house. And so that's why we have 70% of eligible members, of eligible students in Greek houses. And I think we see in freshman floors how people are able to kind of band together and create those communities amongst themselves, but then that kind of falls apart when you become an upperclassman and you move to upperclassman dorms, and you no longer really know your neighbors, so you don't really have that automatic community. So I'd say a residential house system would be able to create that kind of sense of community within a dorm so that people have an alternative to the Greek system if that's not something that they want to be involved in. So,
and, you know, we all come from all different backgrounds and have all different experiences in life. And with that, you're going to have a whole different set of opinions and beliefs. And in regards to that, I might not agree with certain points written within the freedom budget. However, I do see the reasons for writing those points. And Casey and I both do believe in the students' right to protest. We might not also agree with the way certain things were handled and certain words were spoken to President Hanlon out of simple respect. However, we do have to support the fact that these students are upset, and we have to hear them out. I simply might not agree with you, but as a human being, as a student at this school, I have to keep my respect for you. I have to listen, and through listening, you might just happen to impart some wisdom within me to make me realize and say, hey, that's not right. We should do something about this. And through that, both Casey and I keep this moderate, almost approach. Not too far this way, not too far that way. Simply being able to listen and understand somebody and actually being able to get to know somebody is what I think student body, president, and vice president is all about. And
so kind of what Casey was saying in the end, though, I think is important that we do need to look at what exactly student assembly can do. And I think Casey has shared some very lofty goals about uniting campus and making campus feel safer. But I think we need to also realize that the student body president can't just tell everyone to come to conversations and all of a sudden we see, you know, that our campus is now more united.
I think sort of the topic of lofty goals, I'm not going to sit here and promise you the moon and stars and lie to you and tell you that I can fix all of Dartmouth's problems, but what I can tell you is that it does directly affect the students, this minutia of meal plans, not having green print work.
This concept of you cannot unite a student body, to me, is just shocking. Because look at our campus right now. We simply had students sit in our president's office for 2 days. It bothers me. It bothers both of us. Every night that students are so upset, it bothers me to walk through here and feel the tension through our campus. And of course you can't sing Kumbaya, John, but you can surely give your every day, your last breath, a fight to try to unite this body.
We can't overemphasize or over-exaggerate SA's role. I think unifying campus is a very, very valid goal and a very justified goal. And I also would hope to be able to unify campus through some of the similar approaches. But I think we can't just focus on that. We need to be focused on other kind of more incremental changes that can actually be accomplished within this next year.